And we're live. Hello to all my BC WrestlePod nerds out there. And welcome to another rendition of the Takedown Troupe, your TNA review show here on the BC WrestlePod networking conglomeration syndicate, podcasting, YouTube, Twitch, thing we do every single day of the week, except for Thursdays. Except for this week, because we were live yesterday. Me and Andrew covered Progress Wrestling, so we lie sometimes. Anyways, I am one of your hosts, Mikey, here with another exciting breakdown of TNA. Lots of things to go over because TNA is just dropping all the things, not for one, but for two shows at the same time, which is kind of crazy. And this evening, I am joined by one of my lovely co-hosts, Papa Oso himself, Will, who may or may not be enjoying these later start times. The jury is still out.
No, I'm good.
Cool. So, unfortunately, our newest member, JT, could not be here this evening, but has profusely apologized and said he would make it up to both Will and I. Dragon boat practice was kind of a crazy one for him this evening, so I will be discussing that with him after we're done with the review. But for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to get this out of the way. This will be the new starting time. This is when we'll be doing our TNA reviews, which is 9 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Central, midnight Eastern.
Ow.
I know, it's crazy, but it's only for the next 10 weeks because the three of us agreed schedules are kind of getting crazy. But to be fair, there's also like a nice little 2-week break coming up very shortly because instead of TNA reviews, we'll be covering everything that is WrestleMania related. Anyways, stay tuned for all that information starting next week because it is a lot and it is a lot of fun. But yeah, me and Will are going to just go straight into it. Before we go into TNA though, if you like what you see here, or even if you don't, we still want to hear from you regardless. So make sure to comment along during this live review. Leave comments on the playback of the videos, whatever you find fancy. And of course, if you want to see more of our shenanigans, you can follow us on pretty much every social media site that we could get our hands on at BC WrestlePod, where not only can you find news reports, you can also find the weekly television report cards for the TV shows. You can find report cards for the pay-per-views and the PLE events. And you could also totally find not out of context clips that surely will not come to haunt us when we, apply for jobs or, we get big and famous. Or who knows? Because apparently in 2025, the biggest way that you know that you have made it on the internet is when the internet tries to cancel you. So we haven't gotten there yet. But one day we will try to get canceled, but not really. So, okay, before we jump into what kicked off TNA, I want to give my initial thoughts and have a quick conversation with Will. Because, Will, lots of things happened this episode. Like, it was only a 2-hour show, and I was just like, my brain hurts from the amount of announcements and one championship no longer being a thing, but we're getting a new one. And also Santino probably being the best thing that happened this show because I could not stop laughing every time he was on screen. We're going to get into a certain part where he broke up a makeout session, which I've got the picture at the perfect part. It's fantastic. But this was a whirlwind episode. I enjoyed it, but my God, my brain hurt with all the announcements and the newses and the changes. I was like, what is happening? TNA, you're not supposed to cram all this. I don't know. We have so much to unpack in so little time. So let's just jump straight into it. We kick things off what I thought was going to be a lot longer than it actually was, but we open things up with our first match of the evening, which is our newly acquired to TNA Elijah taking on the king of TNA himself, Frankie Kazarian. I don't know about you, Will. This felt really short. Like, more so than I thought, and it just felt weird. I was like, this was a weird way to open the show. I was like, it was less than 5 minutes.
Well, it was a total setup match. That's why.
True.
That's why it didn't go as long because Joe had to get injured. It's like, okay, all right. Although I will have to say that I did enjoy watching Frankie get his ass handed to him by Joe Hendry, and I was loving that part of it. However, I really kind of wish Elijah had jumped in a little bit at least.
Instead of playing peacekeeper.
Yeah, instead of playing the sort of wounded, because he was like, and I was like, no, dude, get in there, help your dude out. But other than that, I mean, it was super short, super, and yeah, I agree. I think it was weird to put this here.
We could have put this in the middle of the show, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, because we don't even, as we go, I think we only come back to it once, right? Or twice, because we see Joe and then they talk about it later
Well,
on.
I'm glad you brought that up, because literally the next thing we go, so after this match happens, the brawl breaks out, we go to a commercial and we come back and we're backstage with Joe Hendry.
Yep.
I just want to stare at this picture really quickly.
I know.
All right, let's keep going. But we are backstage with shirtless Joe Hendry.
As it should always be.
And he is with our TNA doc, who, Joe can't move his shoulder, so there might be a shoulder injury. And at first, I was just like, I'm going against my better judgment, but I swear to gosh, if Joe Hendry is actually legit injured, I may or may not be a little upset. And then, spoiler alert, we kept getting updates and reminders. I was like, oh no, he's fine, he's good. I'm pretty sure he's not injured.
Yeah.
I was like, don't play. Listen, normally I'd be like, well, okay, that's fine and everything. But because I will be at Rebellion, I'm like, don't play with me, TNA. Don't do this to me. Because a TNA pay-per-view without Joe Hendry, I might actually, quote Kendrick Lamar, I'm about to burn this to the ground. Like, I will burn everything to the ground. Not really.
I'm not lying. I would. Because I would be like, I'm so excited, I can't wait. And then suddenly he's like, not there. Oh my God, I'd be so pissed. I would be so pissed.
I was like, I need to see Joe Hendry in all his glory. In more ways than one.
Yes.
I'm going to send this to Will, and he's going to make this the wallpaper. I'm just kidding.
But how do you know it's not already my wallpaper?
That is very true. Oh my goodness. Hey, there's a reason that we're called the Biconics up in this piece, okay? We are all queer coded and we love each other here and our wrestlers equally. Anyways, so Joe, we're going to talk about you a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we move on from this amazing.
Yes.
Sorry, Joe. We'll come back to you. I promise.
Ugh.
So the next thing we get, okay, I'm gonna admit, as much as this was a whirlwind of the show, I enjoyed a lot of it, but I feel like a lot of the show felt like it could have been an A- for me had we put certain promo segments in different spots, because the first 30 minutes, I'm gonna admit, were probably like all over the place for me. I'm like,
they were.
It was like ricocheting, but we now get into the system public firing. And against my better judgment, I'm like, somebody is about to get fired from the system. And I'm kind of here for this group to unravel. Spoiler alert, that is not what happens. But surprisingly, I'm surprised that Eddie Edwards is taking the helms. I'm like, sir, of everybody in this picture, I would say Moose is really the only one who is racking up wins still. Like, I was like, Eddie, I love you, but you're taking the helm and be like, somebody's about to get fired. I'm like, sir, when was the last time you won a match?
Exactly.
So
yeah,
So let's break this down and then we can give our thoughts. So Eddie comes out, and then all the members of the system come out one by one. Alicia, JDC, Brian Myers, Moose, and Eddie asks all of them the same question if they're in or out. Alicia, JDC, and Brian say yes, so they get their system rings back. Eddie goes to Moose, asks the same question, but before Moose can answer, we get interrupted by my favorite, newest distraction on TNA, Mr. Cody Deaner, who basically tells Moose that he is better and bigger than the system. And I'm like, listen, Deaner, I was like, I don't know what your place is right now in TNA, but honestly, I cannot agree with you even with more. I feel like of everybody in this little faction, to a certain extent, Moose is probably your biggest name, a star, whatever term you want to use here. And Deaner's like, you should probably just leave the group, man, and don't let it be the system's choice. Let it be the people's choice. To which Moose responds to Cody Deaner by kicking him in the face. I was like, you know what? I'm not mad at it. But yeah, the first half of this, I was just like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm cringed. Is this how I'm supposed to feel? No? Okay. All right, Will, what were you gonna say about this whole public firing?
I just thought it was stupid. I thought this whole thing was I'm so tired of the system. I'm so done with them. And this whole all of a sudden, like, what, we're re-energizing ourselves, and I mean, that's great and all. I mean, that's awesome. If they're re-energizing them, but they've got to change the way they do crap. This is so boring because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And if you want to be successful, like if you want to really be a good bad guy, you've got to change how you do things, keep people guessing. That way they never know what or where to expect you. And I think this is just yesterday's mashed potatoes. And I was just like, okay, I don't care. I literally don't care. The most exciting part of the whole bit was when Diener came out and got his face kicked in. And then I was like, okay, well, yay, look at that, some action. Instead of us sitting here listening to Eddie Edwards talk, and it's like, and I love Eddie. Don't get me wrong, guys. Just so y'all know out there, I love Eddie Edwards, and I actually like all of the wrestlers individually. I hate the system. I absolutely hate. I don't I don't I don't see a purpose for them anymore. I think I saw them when they first came on. I saw their purpose and I was like, yeah, because we needed a faction. We needed something to kind of stir things up. But now it's like literally it feels like they've overstayed their welcome.
Well, commentary remind us that this group has been together for almost a whole year now. I'm like, damn, it's been that long.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
So that's
But
just my take
yeah,
on it.
so I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I think Moose and Diener are gonna have interactions leading into the rebellion. I was like, I would not be surprised if Diener ends up being part of Ultimate X. We're gonna talk about it because I may or may not have woken up not only my dog, but the rest of the house with a certain announcement later on that we're gonna talk about. But we'll get there. But I agree with you, Will. I think this whole public firing thing was just not set up the way that we thought. And I think this segment was also doomed from the beginning too, when we got the recap that the reason this came about is in a digital exclusive, not even on air during the episode last week, that Eddie Edwards said that there was going to be a public firing next week from last week's show. I'm like, yeah, this segment was doomed from the start. But if the system needs to recharge, reboot, whatever, cool, fine. Just don't let them talk. Like, give me like 2 weeks of them not talking. Let's just everybody fight, which hopefully is the case when we get to Santino and his magical bingo balls, minus the bingo. Santino is so bad. It was so good this episode. I do not care. I was just
I
like,
know. He was the best.
best. Uh, so after this whole public firing nonsense, we go backstage with Gia Miller, who is talking with our ladies, the knockouts. So Team Masha, which is Masha Slamovich, Zaya Brookside, and Liang Li, talking about their upcoming match this evening against Tessa Blanchard. And, which we now found out, thanks to the graphic, it would be Tessa Blanchard, JCJ, and Jasmine Nix. So our girls from NXT and Fatal Influence teaming up with Tessa to take on these three right here. So this was a promo to set up what would end up being our main event, which was kind of nice. I was like, oh my gosh, women's main eventing. Let's go. So we're going to put a pin in that because Masha, girl, I love you, but I don't know, man. When we talk about your match that got made for Rebellion, it seems like we actually might pull the trigger on something that I don't want. But we'll talk about that when we get to that part. Because first, we go backstage and we find out that Moose is in a world of trouble because Santino's just like, I can't believe you just kicked Diener in the face. And you are pretty proud of yourselves. So he punishes Moose of all people. Be like, Moose, you going to defend your title in Ultimate X? And we got two individuals for you to fight. And I love how they popped up this little Twitter graphic in the middle of this whole thing, too. But to get a better look at this, Moose finds out via the social medias and Santino, don't worry, this won't stay this way because like an hour later into the show, we will be adding one more person to this graphic. But at this point of the show, We knew that Moose was about to enter Ultimate X, and the first two participants alongside Moose will be Matt Cardona and the youngest in charge, Leon Slater. I'm like, I swear to God, I don't care who else is in this match. This is Leon's time. Let him walk out of Los Angeles as a champion. Don't do this to me, TNA. I'm like, it's time, man. I want Leon to win, but I'm excited. Listen, I like Matt Cardona, GCW person, correspondent right here. So I know of him and he does great work. But of course, I'm rooting for my boy, Leon Slater. Like, I'm rooting for Leon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I'm excited. We get 3 more participants, which we'll get as we get into Rebellion. But we get 1 more. They just decided not to space everything out. They're like, you got 2 tonight, plus 1 more down the line. So I was like, you know what? So far, I like this field for Ultimate X. I wonder who they're going to add next. More on that later. Because now we get into our second match. And by far, listen, on paper, I was already excited. Also, shout out to TNA because it seems like with all the knockouts matches, they gave them like 2 or 3 commercial breaks. Like these matches actually went for a decent amount of time. So we have Spitfire, which is Danny Luna and Jody Threat, taking on the Meta Girls from NXT of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. I'm just like, by the end of this match, I was like, run it back, TNA or NXT, run it back. I want to see the fight again. And I'm not going to lie, Will, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that the Meta Girls picked up the win here.
I was speechless. I was like, are we about to do something that I'm going to be extremely happy with? Because if so, I am on board 1,000,000%. 1,000,000.
And
I would love to see hardware on Lash and Jakara. I think they would be great.
Oh, absolutely.
So I really hope that's what this is leading to. I really do.
I just, out of selfishness, I would love to see Lash and Jakara fight the House of Elegance at Rebellion for those
Yes.
titles.
Oh my
I'm like,
awesome.
listen, I will scream my little head off if they win. And even if they don't, I selfishly just want to see Lash Legend in person. I'm like, let's go.
Right. That's fair.
Jeez. To the match, to give credit to the match itself, like, I always worry about the NXT people or NXT folks coming on over, or at least the younger NXT folks coming over who are still newer to wrestling. Because Jody has had like 5-6 years in the business, but I think she's gotten a lot under. Danny is like a young prodigy. She's been doing this since she could crawl out of the womb with all of this. And Jakara and Lash are not wrestlers by trade. They were athletes before going to WWE and becoming wrestlers. But my God, did these 4 women, especially Lash and Jakara, they kept up with Spitfire, and they were trading shot for shot, hit by hit, blow by blow. Look, I know I'm biased in saying this, but I was just like, the amount of how far that Lash as a wrestler has come from last year to this year is crazy. Because I remember when me, you, and Andrew were covering NXT, our biggest complaint is like, we like Lash's look, we love her attitude, but there were certain parts of her wrestling that she needed to improve on. Now I'm in love with this girl because she has improved leaps and bounds, and Jakara too, man. And the fact that they kept up with Spitfire in this match too is a testament to all 4 of these women's talents. Like, this was a really solid match. And again, I was pleasantly surprised that the Meta Girls won over Spitfire. So, and I agree with you. I think this has to set up a match between Lash and Jakara against the House of Elegance somewhere.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, it has to. I mean, I physically feel like they are slapping us in the face with it. It's like it has to be something. It can't. This cannot be a simple fluke. No way.
No.
So fingers crossed. Well, the best I can anyway. Fingers crossed.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I love this match and I cannot wait to see. I'm interested to see where the meta girls go for here in TNA with House Elegance and all that good stuff. So, but girls, women, knockouts, all four of y'all, you did fantastic in this match and you were great. I love it. This was a really solid match and one of my favorites of the evening. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Now that when I watched the whole episode and at the very end of this, I was like, this seems like a random thing to have, but we go backstage and Mike Santana introduces Santino to his, friend, quote unquote, but like supporter of AA and all that, Derek, who Santino has allowed to work as part of the TV crew for all of this, and Mike Santana put in a word for him. So Mike Santana doing the Lord's work out here by helping people who are recovering from addiction, alcohol addiction, to get jobs in TNA. I was just like, but
Right.
I will admit, at this point in the show, I was like, something's about to go down. I have a very sneaking suspicion that it is about to go sideways. Though
Yeah.
Mikey at this point was not prepared for what would to come later down the line. And I will, yeah.
This totally felt like, again, this
was a setup.
Yeah. This was a total setup.
Act 1. This was act 1 in this whole thing we would be getting throughout the evening. But Derek, you cool. Mike Santana, love you. Santino, there's nobody can make me hate you. So, Derek, we'll come back to you in a little bit later in the show. Because first, we got to talk about the Hardys, or as Santino likes to call them, the Hard Boys. But the Hardys come out and they cut this promo against Ryan and Nick Nemeth. Matt is still pissed about getting beat up at the end of Sacrifice. And so now there's no niceness. There is no, oh, I understand. And less words spoken here. Matt Hardy basically tells Ryan and Nick Nemeth that at Rebellion, they about to whoop their ass. It's going to be a public beating. It's going to be a crime scene. Like Matt Hardy is ready to delete them off the face of the planet. Jeff begins to talk too, but doesn't get very far because we are interrupted by no longer the good hands. They are now known as the great hands, being accompanied by cabinet member to President Mustafa Ali, Tasha Steelz. And they basically do the shtick that we know them for. They talk crap about the city. They talk crap about the Hardys, how they are such in the world of land of delusion. I love it that they think they are the best next thing since sliced bread. And you know what? The Hardys are like, all right, you want to run your mouths? Get in this ring and fight us. And then Santino makes this match. And the Hardys, on top of that, too, offer this with Santino agreeing that if the Great Hands can beat the Hardys in this match, then they will be basically number one contenders to the tag team championships. Spoiler alert, they do not. This was a beautiful move by Matt. I'm not even gonna lie. This was nice. I was like, ooh. But yeah, this leads into the Great Hands versus the Hardys. Hardys are the winners. Bada bing, bada boom. How you doing?
Good. This was a really good match. I
Oh,
actually really enjoyed
this
match. I thought this was just going to be another throwaway match, but it was actually turned out to be really good. I was like, oh, yay.
I love this match. I really, really did. I thought both teams worked really well together. The Great Hands are really good at selling, like getting the bricks beat off them. And again, the Hardys do pick up the victory. And once, they're celebrating in the ring, which cuts back to backstage, which sees Ryan Nemeth watching on the weirdest slanted big plasma screen TV they could find. I was like, it's not even standing up straight. It's like slanted. I'm like, okay, I ain't mad. Which then, Ryan begins to run his mouth, but to himself about, the Hardys being washed up and all that stuff. Before a whole entire brawl breaks out between Ryan and the youngest in charge, Leon Slater. Leon's like, yo, man, I'm not going to have you talk bad about the Hardys, and they taught me. And so these two get into an altercation, and they have to be in a pull-apart brawl. I was like, I kind of like this more intense Leon Slater. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I love seeing the intensity, and he ain't gonna take nobody shit. Especially not from one Ryan Nemeth and his big brother, which will be. Hey,
And
you know what?
I have to say I agree. I love this version of Leon Slater. I love this sort of aggressive, you know, protective sort of, feels like one of the guys now, because originally he kind of felt like the boy on the outside watching, and now I feel like he's part of it. And I like this, whatever is going on between him and Ryan and him and Ryan Nemeth. I love it. The only thing I want is I want this man to win something. Give Leon Slater something, for crying out loud. I'm tired of him getting his rear end beat. He's good. I mean, he's really good. And I'm honestly and truly, he's better than some of our veterans, to be quite honest. And I know it's probably an unpopular opinion, but I believe he's better than some of the folks that have been there for a while. And they really need to kind of put him in the front row somewhere. It doesn't have to be a championship necessarily, like a title, but which would be nice to have him in a title eventually, but he needs to be up front. They need to put him up front.
Mhm.
I mean, seriously.
So, and I hope again, selfishly, I hope that chance comes at Rebellion with him being in the Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship. I honestly think it's time to start giving Leon Slater. He's been here for almost 2.5 years. He's been working hard. He doesn't complain, at least from what I hear. And you know what? I think it's time to have him start to be the face of this current era of the X division. Now that we no longer have like a speedball Mike Bailey to be that face, I think Leon would be a good change. I think Moose has held on to that X division championship long enough. And I think it's time to, at least until Slammiversary, let the reign of Leon Slater begin. So we shall see when Rebellion comes, but Leon is going to be a busy man, not only in TNA, but he has a busy jam-packed spring as well. He's competing in Las Vegas over WrestleMania weekend in Progress as a tag wrestler, and then he'll be going back to the UK in May for the tournament that Progress Wrestling's having. So man's going to be busy, booked and blessed. Can never complain about that. I knew once we saw this backstage update, the Gia Miller injury report with our TNA doc, I knew, oh, this is definitely a work. Okay, I don't really have anything to worry about now. I was like, this is the third or fourth time by this point of the show that they reminded us that Joe Hendry has sustained a shoulder injury. And I was like, okay, it's a work. He's going to be fine. So we're good. I love this dysfunctional, chaotic couple. They are wild, and I'm here for all of it. So Steph and Mance come out. By the way, I have to say, I know they're a real couple in life, so they could definitely do the things that they were doing. But I love this. I love this dynamic that Mance is the psychotic, like killer, but like Steph is the one that keeps him on the leash and is literally step on me, senpai, with him all the time. She wears the pants in this relationship. He is so smitten with Steph. He's like calling her baby and all that stuff. I was like, that's cute, but I'm also a little creeped out, but like in the best way possible. So these two first come out. They state, well, mostly Steph states that she's the digital media champion. They run TNA. They could do whatever they want with this championship. And they're like, you know what? We're going to be a power couple here in TNA, which was like, you know what? I can get behind that idea. Not even going to lie, Steph. And then they proceeded to start making out on stage. And I was like, way to go to make me feel, but like in a great way. I'm like, but then we immediately get into this because these two segments kind of blend together. So Mance and Steph say their thing. Santino comes out with the announcement. The best thing that had made me pause and laugh, I literally fell out of my chair laughing. I was like, make out, and then he literally gets in between the two of them. I'm like, this is some vaudevillian type of shit, and I loved it. This was wild. But then
This
it got
was super funny.
This was funny. This was wild. But then we got to get serious real quick because we got two pieces of news within like 30 seconds of each other. We find out that Santino and TNA are retiring the Digital Media Championship, which I was just like, okay. But then we get the announcement that in its place at Unbreakable in a couple of weeks, TNA will crown its first ever TNA International Champion. When you say international champion, I'm like, I better see that championship or people from around the world come to TNA to fight for this thing. If you want the international championship, I need wrestlers from around the world, from other promotions to come in and fight for this thing. If that is the case with this, I'm okay with the TNA Digital Media Championship being retired.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
I'm excited, but yeah.
No, I agree. I am too. But the funny thing is because the Digital Media Championship has been so, dare I say, broken for the longest now that I think this is the best move for it. Because we were like, and we've said it before, we're like, either they need to put somebody in the Digital Media Championship that makes it worth something, or they need to scrap it altogether. And I like that they're just basically scrapping it and and switching it with a different title, which I'm hoping to the Lord on high that they'll take it seriously. And it sounds like they will because they've given it a legitimate name. So maybe that's going to change how that title is presented, which I'm very excited about.
I am too. And with this announcement comes that at Unbreakable and leading into Unbreakable in 2 weeks, because in order to honor the Unbreakable of 2005, which has probably the greatest TNA match in the company's history, a triple threat between AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, there will be a series of triple threat matches to qualify each winner into a final triple threat to become the inaugural international champion, which makes me really excited. And then, of course, we ended this announcement with Sami Callihan and Eye Patch choking out Mance with the bat. I was like, sexy violence. We love to see that. And then he threw Mance off the stage. I was like, yeah, Mance can take it. I've seen his death matches in GCW. Like, he can take it. We're going to talk about these two a little bit later because as soon as I saw who was in that triple threat to move on to Unbreakable to be in that to become the inaugural international champion, I'm like, yeah, process of elimination says that individual is moving on because Mance and Sami are going to kill each other the whole entire match. Which means that don't be cowards, TNA, book me a Monsters Ball match between these two at Rebellion. Book it, you cowards. Anyways, moving on. This was some Gone Girl shit that I was not prepared for. I was like, holy shit, we're kidnapping people now at TNA. Damn, we increased the budget for this. Also, I kind of need Tasha Steelz to be like a new Bond villain because I am digging the vibe she's giving in this picture. She literally has Derek kidnapped. And I was just like, oh my God, Tasha, like where we had you at towards the end of last year to where you are now, I'm like, girl, you entered a villain era, and I'm here for it. I'm gonna say it. I think putting her with Ali was probably a really smart choice because I love this refresh in character for her.
Oh, I agree. I like this. Dare I say, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, but dare I say, I like this less ghetto character. That sort of stereotypical, rough neighborhood character to this sort of like riding on the power train, this sort of like kind of feeding off that power that Ali has and it kind of rubbing off on her, and she's starting to dress the part and feel the part, and yeah, she's becoming like a true Bond villain, which is fantastic. It's like, oh, it's so great. I love it. I do. I love this new version of her.
Oh, absolutely. So Tasha has Derek kidnapped, and then we see Derek get thrown into a van. I was just like, what in the Gone Girl taking is this? Like, oh, poor Derek. We're gonna get into the final act in a little bit when we get there, but this I was not prepared for kidnapping in my wrestling. I was like, all right, TNA, let's see where we go with this. Which we didn't have to wait. Listen, again, I am not a theater person, but this is probably my favorite feud in all the segments
Mhm.
that we have gotten either with Ali and Mike Santana together and individually. Like, but listen, so far, I think this is Ali has my vote for best heel or bad guy
Oh,
at
yeah.
2025. This we're far enough in. This shit right here, Will, I was, like, glued to my screen. I had to watch this episode again because the first time through, I did not take any notes during this segment, and even on second watch through, I still didn't take notes, but I had to write something down because I wasn't gonna forget. But, again, the cerebral assassin that Ali is using right now playing mind games, it's now going just beyond, playing mind games with Mike. Now he's messing with everything that Mike stands for. So Derek gets thrown into this room by the great hands, and Ali sits him down, and he just verbally assaults Derek by reminding him about the drunk driving accident that paralyzed they used the term paralyzed the whole child. And it was just like, you ruined her life and, just destroying him emotionally and all that. They make the great hands take him out of the room after Ali tells him to. Tasha's like, why'd you let him go? And then Ali says the coldest line that I have ever heard any wrestler say is just like, people like him, addicts like him will destroy themselves. I'm like, oh my God. I have no words. Like, I don't even know where to start. Holy crap, Will. I'm like, Mike, you better get in here. Mike, you better take him down. This does such a good job for me because I mean, I love Ali as a person. I think he's amazing. This is probably again, we talked about it when he came back to the company after his first time with TNA last year. I was like, we love the presidential character. We need him to do something a little bit more. I think he heard us because holy shit, this is crazy. I Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how to loss for words because the amount okay, I'll say this before I let you talk, Will. Obviously, there had to have been a conversation between TNA Creative, Ali, and Mike Santana, and all of this because, as we all know, Mike Santana is not shy about sharing his sobriety journey. He's 2 years sober, all that good stuff. So obviously, there had to have been a conversation of when they were developing this feud and this was going to be a central part of the story that they're telling, that obviously lines aren't crossed, things like that. It started out with Ali going after Mike Santana individually in his safe space of like the AA meetings and, rubbing, in his face, like trying to tempt Mike with alcohol and stuff like that. But now we have expanded the paradigm that is the drama of this story because now Ali is no longer just going after Mike the person. He's now starting to go after Mike's supports, like what Mike stands for, what makes him Mike Santana, the character and the hero that we love. And I'm just like, he's messing with Mike and Ali's messing with Mike on such a high psychological level. I'm like, oh, Mike's about to beat him up next time they see each other. Like, oh, which is perfect because I think this is where that story ends. Is that Ali eventually will get his butt handed to him by Mike, but I'm interested to see if this is what Ollie wants the whole time by making Mike reach that breaking point and then to go into that darkness back again. I'm just like, there's so many layers to the story. It's so good. Will, I'm sorry, I talked a lot. So, Will, I want your perspective on all of this.
Well, To piggyback on what you've already said is, the reason that this is so great of a rivalry is because, in the past and even in other companies, rivalries like this are usually psychotic. They're like, one of them's like psychotic, the other one is lesser psychotic. It's sort of more psychotic breaks than anything, but this one is psychological. Like there's a absolute premeditation to it. It's not I'm crazy and I'm just doing crazy shit. It's I'm thinking about your weaknesses and I'm going to exploit them. And this is a perfect example of the sort of digging psychologically deep into Mike Santana's psyche. Ali is attacking him from the inside. That's what's so powerful about this is that, and that's what makes it so like right there on that line. There's that fine line, and I agree that they had to have had some kind of conversation about this to where, hey, we don't want to cross this line, but it's okay if we kind of skid along it, which is what they've been doing. Because there are moments in there, especially from Ali, that I'm just like, dude, that's too far. All that's almost too far. And but they stay right on that. They just glean that line and they don't cross it, which I think is great. And I love this rivalry, and I agree. I think this is the well, I mean, to put it in superhero terms, I mean, this is Lex Luthor right here. This is Mustafa Ali is Lex Luthor. He's psychological. He knows Superman's weaknesses. He's going to exploit his weaknesses, and he's going to just try to destroy him from the inside as well as the outside. But he knows that if the only way to destroy him on the outside is to literally implode him inward. So all of this, it's brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. It's probably the best rivalry I have seen in years. This is so deep. It's so well planned. I mean, it's clean. That's what's also great about it. Not a single one of these promo scene type things, these little scene cuts, not one of them has been sloppy. Like at all. So that adds sort of the credibility to this rivalry. This sort of, it's clean, it's precise. It just keeps you, it holds you in there. And it is, I'm very much like I'm waiting for Mike Santana to come busting through a wall and just destroy Ali. I mean, truly. I mean, Ali is going to take him to his lowest, which is where the only place he can go is up, and that's what he'll do. He'll find that moment of strength, that internal strength, whether that's whoever, whatever. And I think Mike Santana will literally Superman punch Ali onto another planet. I really do. And then of course, that'll end that rivalry. But not the hate. I think it'll start creating a hate between the two of them, and I love that. So they'll always be nemesis or nemesis, whatever. Anyway, they'll be each other's nemesis, and I love that.
Oh, absolutely. Again, Ali is on track right now, like I said, to probably be my favorite bad guy character of 2025. And we're barely in April with all of this. This has only been a 2-month feud, and I'm already so invested. Like, this is my new favorite telenovela. Like, honestly, I can't wait to see where the next chapter leads. But again, Derek, poor Derek, man. We're gonna talk about you in a little bit too, because Mike Santana is now on a mission to end Ali, which is gonna be great to talk about in a little bit. But this was my favorite part of the whole episode, and I was glued to my screen the whole entire time. This is a good feud. I love this. And then, to balance it out, we go from that seriousness to just pure comedy. This neck, first of all, George Iceman, I love the commitment to the bit because you are wearing a neck brace, but the bow tie is on the front of the neck brace. Like, it is so dumb. I love it. But we have George Iceman, the concierge, and Heather by Elegance. Ash is on vacation after getting caked in the face. And so she is on a much deserved vacation. And so they're looking to build and the Elegance brand even further. So it seems that Heather is going to have, and George Iceman here are going to have some interaction with our newest TNA knockout sign out that we talked about last week, and Miss Maggie Lee, which makes me so excited. I was like, oh, okay, we're just going to throw Maggie onto the TNA roster for stuff. Okay, I'm here for it. Love it. Great. Can't wait. Now it's time for part 1 of Santino and his magical balls. So, we get this pre-tape backstage promo with Santino earlier in the show announcing that we are going to crown an inaugural TNA International Champion at Unbreakable. So he has his magical balls in the bingo bin set up to randomly select the 9 participants that will be a part of the 3 triple threats that will lead into a final triple threat at Unbreakable. So throughout the night, we get all sorts of types of things when it comes to all of this. So in this first one, we find out that it is going to be, excuse me. I have to remember the order of all of this because it kind of goes all over the bit. But in this first pairing, what ends up happening is that Santino does the thing, he spins the thing, and then he pulls out 3 wrestlers' names from this thing. So we come to find out that the first 3 names that are pulled for this is Mr. Eddie Edwards, Ace Austin, and Steve Macklin. So I was just like, you know what? Honestly, I can make a case for either 3 to go on to the final round to become international champion. Though I don't know how long that's going to stay, so. But we'll talk about that as we continue. So that is the first match made. And then I was like, we go to commercial. I was like, okay, we'll get the other 2 matches. Fine. Jesus Christ, TNA, what are you doing with my life right now? Like, as soon as I saw that Viking helmet and that like vignette they were playing before this announcement, I was just like, oh my God, don't tease me. Don't. I swear to God, TNA, if you're playing hard to get with my heart and you're blue balling me here, I'm going to be so upset with you. And then this graphic popped up, and this is where I screamed and woke up my house when I was watching this episode, because El Hijo del Vikingo is not only returning to Rebellion, but homie has been added to the Ultimate X. So now it is Moose, Leon Slater, Matt Cardona, and El Hijo del Vikingo in this match. And I'm just like, TNA, what are you? I'm like, who else are you going to add to this match? It's already crazy with these 4. Who else are you going to put in this match? Jiminy H. Christmas. This is crazy.
That's somebody. It looks, if those are the silhouettes of the people that are in it, there's someone there that's bald. That looks almost like Ryan Nemeth right there.
Maybe, but I don't think it'll be Ryan, because Ryan already has a match with Nick.
Oh, I know. That's just it kind of looks like him. That's why I was like, that's kind of like his silhouette, that sort of smug,
Right. I'm interested to see. You know what? I think the one behind Eho, or the one that looks smug too, it could also be a Casey Navarro too. I would love to see Casey added to this match. I want to see Casey added to this match because I think that'd be awesome.
I wonder if that could be like an Eric Young.
That's crazy too, because once Unbreakable, yeah, it could be an Eric Young, but if we're looking at the current roster for Ultimate X, I would love to see Casey be added to this match.
That would be cool.
And honestly, just on paper alone, I'd be like, this might be my favorite match, best match, don't care.
I really wish they would. I really wish Matt Cardona would get a different headshot. That is just freaking me out.
Honestly, Yeah, I was like, it makes sense for his wrestling character, but then again, who knows if like Matt sent stuff in or they just used stuff that TNA had, but you
Yeah.
know.
Ugh.
But we have 4 out of the 6 participants, and I am absolutely losing my little mind. I'm like, I get to watch this live. I think I might cry.
That
I'm
is
just
pretty cool that you'll get to see it.
I'm just excited because like I was so excited with when you and Michael got to go to Genesis and got to see honestly Josh versus Mike Santana. Like I said during our review of that pay-per-view was probably my favorite match of the whole entire evening. The fact that you got to see all these wrestlers live, I'm like, and I'm just excited too because TNA rarely comes out to California. I was like, finally. I hope this is not the last time either because I would love it. But I'm excited for this match. We got 2 more participants that we'll probably find out about as we get closer to Rebellion. So I cannot wait.
Oh, I just found something. It says that Casey Navarro is in
Ooh.
Extradition. Says Hijo de Vikingo, Casey Navarro, Leon Slater, Matt Cardona. So far.
Okay. So spoiler alert. Yeah, it seems that Casey's going to be added into it as the next couple of weeks go along, which makes me excited, which also makes me wonder who's going to fill out the 6th and final spot. So again, we have a couple weeks until Rebellion, but I'm excited. But let's talk about this. I had to make sure I double checked when I was watching this. I was just like, this is the main event, but we still got like lots of time left. What is happening? They gave these girls like 15, 20 minutes. And I was just like, honestly, just, spoiler alert, still not happy that Masha got pinned at the end of this. But I will say, this is my favorite match of the whole entire night.
Mine too.
Of course, I knew Masha and Tessa were going to bring it. Liang Li and Zaya are great. I want to shout out JC and Jasmine because they kept up with these TNA girls. Like all 6 of them were fantastic. This was such a great match. I loved it.
Oh, I did too. This was awesome. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Like way better.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. Because no shade to JC and Jasmine, but they're still fairly new in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say, I feel like, well, JC has been around in NXT longer than Fallon and Jasmine. And Jasmine's the youngest when it comes to in-ring experience. She could have fooled me this evening during this match.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they all performed very well. Like pretty like high standard performing. I mean, I didn't feel like anyone was weak. I thought and I hate the idea of what we believe is going to be happening, but I have to say Tessa, JC, Jasmine, and I mean, they all worked really well together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do hate the fact that Masha got pinned. However, I wonder if that means just because she got pinned here that she won't be losing her title.
I mean, Masha, when it comes to Tessa, Masha has been on the commentary stated as she gets pinned. This is the second time that Tessa has pinned Masha in her championship reign, which obviously we'll talk about it at the very end, which sets up a match between her and Masha at Rebellion. But I agree with you because I've watched wrestling for so long. Usually, if somebody's on the losing end, they have to win at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So
that's why I was wondering. I was like, ooh, because she pinned her once before. And then she got pinned here. And then I was like, surely this is the formula happening right now. So
one can hope. Because I don't know if
yeah.
I'm ready for Masha to lose the title to
Me
Tessa yet.
either. I'm not sure I'm ready for Tessa to have the title yet.
At least not right now in the year.
No.
Like if
I think she eventually, absolutely.
Like at Slammiversary, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because Masha got the title Bound for Glory in October. So it's like, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. I will say though that one other thing that happened is that Zaya Brookside and Rosemary also be eyeing each other. So I'm like, bring back the feud. I love that Rosemary's just creepily looking around all over the place and keeping her eye on the Knockouts division. Literally, she is Donnie Darko, the Raven, insert like gothic aesthetic right here. I loved it.
Love it.
But this was a really great main event, which I absolutely loved. This was fantastic. Back to Santino and his magical bingo balls. He draws 3 more names, and we come to learn that the next triple threat is going to be Zachary Wentz of the Rascals taking on JDC and Eric Young. And I was like, also another great match on paper. I actually interested to see how these 3 go against each other.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's a lot of moving parts. Macklin's in a qualifier. Eric Young is in this one, but they're not in the same one. I'm just like, something's gonna happen. But we only gotta wait 2 weeks until Unbreakable to see what happens.
Yep.
But we move on. Mike is coming for blood. Let the violence begin. Poor Derek, man.
Welcome to the job. Your first day, you get kidnapped, psychologically screwed,
and then you break your sobriety in a singular day. That's a wild day, Derek. I'm sorry this happened to you.
That's rough,
but it is. But on the flip side, not Mike Santana, Michael Santana is coming for vengeance and for blood. I like when I'm here for when Santana gets angry because he's about to whoop some ass and it's going to be so satisfying to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing.
It is. So for the final time in this episode, Santino and his magical balls. We get the final matchup for the International Championship, which gets changed because, in the middle of this, Patchy the Pirate over here and Sami Callihan comes on over, says, is like, you owe me, that if I don't get my way and if you don't say yes, I'm going to fight him anyways. So Santino says, okay, I can't really fault you on that. So our final triple threat ends up being Sami Callihan, Mance Warner, and AJ Francis. And by process of elimination, I'm like, oh, AJ's winning this. Sami and Mance are going to kill each other. That AJ wins by default.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure AJ will. And this match is happening next week on TNA, and it's not happening on Unbreakable. Winner goes on to Unbreakable, whereas the other 2 matches are happening at Unbreakable. So the winner of this, which will probably be AJ, gets a bye. He doesn't have to fight at Unbreakable in the qualifier and then again in the final, which means I hope that means he loses and he don't win.
That's interesting that this one's being done outside Unbreakable, but the other 2 are being done in Breakable. Considering there's 2 weeks too, I'm surprised they didn't do one next week, 1 week before, and then the last one at Unbreakable.
Which I think is probably the only big critique I have is because Unbreakable is happening in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks. It's like a week and some change later is Rebellion in Los Angeles. So I think that's the pitfall of trying to advertise for like 2 big things at the same time, is that you can't. I mean, we're slowly getting the Rebellion matches, but we're probably not going to get the full card. Honestly, we probably won't get the full card until the Go Home show, honestly.
That's because
we also are probably going to spend next week building to what's happening at Unbreakable.
That's true. That's very true.
And then frees up the roster after Unbreakable. Be like, all right, who doesn't have a match at Rebellion? And you. So we'll see what happens. Again, AJ Francis by default's probably winning this match next week. I just hope he doesn't walk out as Unbreakable as international champion. We move on.
Indeed.
So this is what ended the show. So again, TNA just pulling no punches and just surprising the hell out of me. So Frankie Kazarian comes out. Okay. He gets on the mic and basically says that, he did everyone a favor by taking Joe Hendry. And now Joe Hendry's championship match at Rebellion is up in question. And then the lights go out. I was like, okay, let's see what TNA wrestler comes out. I was not prepared for All Ego Ethan Page to walk his happy ass through the screens. I was like, oh my God. I'm like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction in that meme. I'm just like, what the flip is going on in TNA land over here? But then it gets crazier, Will, because Frankie and Ethan go back and forth, and we find, well, okay, it changes by the end when they break it on social media. But the end of this episode, All Ego Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry for the TNA World Championship is signed for Rebellion. I'm like, oh my God, I get to see Ethan and Joe go at it again. This is going to be a rerun of No Mercy from last year, from NXT's No Mercy, when Joe fought Ethan for the NXT Championship. Obviously, we'll talk about it that it is now a triple threat at Rebellion, but I was not prepared for Ethan Page to be the opponent for Joe Hendry at Rebellion. And that's how the show ends. Frankie's mad, and that is how the show ends this week. Will, I got to get your thoughts. What do you think of All Ego Ethan Page being inserted and being a part of this championship match at Rebellion?
You know, it would. I'm not a big fan of Ethan. I'm not a big fan of his character. You know, and of course, I'm not a big fan of Frankie Kazarian's character either. So I'm kind of okay with this. You know, whatever. Do your thing. It's like,
So this is the only thing that worries with me with this, because we'll talk about it in a little bit. But Frankie Kazarian still has the Call Your Shot trophy.
uh-huh.
So he could lose the match and then cash that thing in immediately to try to get it a second chance at it, like right after the match is over. So again, whether he cashes that Call Your Shot gauntlet in a success or not, we'll have to wait and see. But that trophy is still being a major pain in my booty over here,
Mm-hmm.
because it is literally a guaranteed championship match anytime, anywhere. But speaking of Rebellion, let's talk about it. So we got 4 out of the 6 participants of Ultimate X, and we talked about that. We're getting the Hardys versus the Nemeth brothers for the tag titles, but the 2 new matches were made by the end of this episode. The first one, which has me holding my breath full of trepidation and fear, is for the TNA Knockouts World Championship, with Masha Slamovich defending her title against Tessa Blanchard. I am really hoping that TNA does not piss off the city of Los Angeles with Masha losing here to Tessa. I'm like, Tessa, it's an inevitable conclusion that Tessa will become TNA Knockouts World Champion in 2025. That I'm not oblivious to. I just don't want it to be there when I'm in the building.
Right.
And yeah, I'm just like, I don't know how to put this in words, Will, without sounding like repeating myself and sounding about it. But to
Mm-hmm.
quote JVL, one of our other BC WrestlePod hopes, he refuses to watch TNA until Blanchard is gone. And I'm like, well, you might be waiting for a while. Now, if she becomes champion, TNA better prepare itself, because there's going to be so much pushback. Well, I mean, when Tessa wins the title at any point in 2025, there's going to be pushback. I just hope they wait until they go to New York for Slammiversary to do that. I'm like, don't do that shit on the West Coast, because you're gonna have me and whatever Latinos roll up in this piece. Like, this is actual Cholo and Cholita country. Tessa Blanchard, your cultural appropriation will not be tolerated in Los Angeles. Well, we shall see. Oh my gosh, I have so much anxiety about where the ending of this match goes. I will be holding my breath the whole entire time.
Yeah, because it gives me pause, because I'm just like, it'll go one of two ways. Either it's going to absolutely blow up in a positive way, or it's going to absolutely go south. And then TNA is going to have to backtrack. They're going to have to try to do this, that, and the other, or she'll win it and then she'll lose. She'll turn around and lose it immediately. I mean, it's like, it's going to be bad no matter what. It's just, how bad is it going to be? Because even I'm just like, even I just learned about her and what she did and what was going on. And even I'm just like, this is a bad idea, dudes. She shouldn't be here right now. She needs to apologize. I'm sorry, but she does. She needs to,
Address what happened,
yeah, she needs
girl.
to find a way in character or whatever you need to do, but you gotta, there's an elephant in the room and you need to address it.
Yeah, so I will be holding my breath the entire time to watch. And okay, the other reason too that I'm really worried about this, and this is like a very stupid reason, I have to admit to myself, but I'm taking my mom with me to Rebellion. She is joining me. Doesn't watch TNA, doesn't know any of these wrestlers, but we have this relationship where we want to be involved in each other's interests. So she puts up with my wrestling, and then I enjoy going to hockey with her. Like that's her jam. I would hate to have to explain to my mom who Tessa is, all the crap that she has done, like the controversy behind her, and then have my mom in the building if Tessa wins this thing. I'm just like, that is not a. I think the show is going to be incredible, but this will be a joy killer if Tessa walks out here and my mom is present. Again, that's really stupid of me to say, but these are the things I think about. I was just like, I don't want
Not
her
stupid at all.
experience, her first time with TNA, watching a bunch of people boo Tessa out the building.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
would suck. I mean,
and that's just a me thing. My mom's a tough broad, so she's not like super too crazy about it, but I just don't want her first TNA experience to be that. So
yeah,
a-
agreed.
again, I don't work for TNA. I am not a booker. I don't make these decisions. So I will have to wait. We will have to wait until Rebellion to see which way the wind blows with this one. This one, though, I'm pretty sure Joe's walking out of Los Angeles as champion. I don't see Ethan taking the title back to NXT, especially since after this Tuesday, it seems he's going to be entering a program with our new NXT North American champion, Ricky Saints. So I don't see Ethan losing this one. I'm going to be honest. I think Frankie is in here to take the pin, but because of that stupid call your shot gauntlet trophy, that also gives me some pause. I was like, he gets pinned, he loses, but he can cash that shit in and like screw Joe. Or oh my gosh, I just thought of something evil and I don't like it because it's still a triple threat. So if he cashes it in, does the rule still apply that it's a triple threat and then he pins Ethan to win? Oh my god, I just thought of it. This evil idea came out of my mouth and I don't like it.
Ooh. Oh my god. I didn't even think about that.
But regardless, whether or not that happens, that trophy gives me pause with this one because I think Joe will win. And per the rules of prediction, I think we will get a point because I'm not counting the call your shot cash in. But I'm afraid that Frankie's cashing this bitch in at Los Angeles.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, ew, I don't like the idea.
But the funny thing about it though is I think you're right though.
Or he could cash in and fail. It can really go one of two
It
ways.
could. But I think he's gonna use it here.
Oh, I think you're right. I think this thing gets used. Now, whether it's successful or not, only time will tell when Rebellion comes around. But I really don't see Frankie holding it on for much longer.
I don't either. The funny thing about it is I think we've reached that point where it's like piss or get off the pot. It he's been carrying it, he's been holding it over our heads. It's getting to the point where I don't even care anymore. It's like, yeah, big deal. You've got the stupid trophy. Moving on, and it's just like use the damn thing. You've got it, use it. What are you waiting for? That's what I don't get. I mean, if you're waiting for this, okay, great. Then use the damn thing. I'm tired of him walking around with a stupid thing. And to me it's not even a matter of I think it's not even a matter of wanting to use it. I think he's wielding it cuz he's like I've got this power in my hand because I think he knows that he can't win against Joe Hendry. I think he knows that. But he's using that trophy as like leverage. to get something. And I don't know. I'm kind of over it. I'm just sort of like, okay, how much longer are we going to play this out? Because he's had that thing for how long now? 6 months?
Yeah, he won it at same thing. He won it at Bound for Glory on the
Yeah.
pre-show.
So he's had it for 6 months. Come on, dude.
And I think it's
he's
time
had
to cash.
plenty of opportunities to use it. And he hasn't.
No. Also, yeah. So we'll see what happens with all of that. I'm still looking forward to the match at Rebellion, mostly because okay, I want to establish Frankie Kazarian, the wrestling character, is not my favorite thing. Frankie Kazarian, the person, is a stand-up guy. Love him. But I honestly think he was inserted in this match to A, take the pin, and B, to cash in that stupid trophy.
Yeah.
So
I hope so.
But I'm still excited because I get to see Joe Hendry defend this thing. And despite, my ups and downs with Ethan Page's character, I am excited because he is a damn good wrestler. So it's crazy to see. But that does bring us to the end of our TNA review this week. There's a lot of information to be unpacked as TNA is, promoting and developing storylines and things for Unbreakable and Rebellion, which is crazy. So, but before we sign off for the evening, I kind of just wanted to give you a little preview of what remains this week. So tomorrow evening, my butt will be back in this chair, but I will be joined by Adolfo and possibly a Wild William down here as well, at least for sure, me and Adolfo, and hopefully Will can join us as we will be here at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern to watch MLW's Battle Riot, which is going to be a lot of fun. Not only do we have some fun matches, like we have a triple threat between Hechicero and Templario and Esfinge. We also have a traditional 3-on-3 CMLL match with, Atlantis Senior, Atlantis Junior, and Star Junior taking on Magnus, Barbaro Cavernario, and Ultimo Guerrero. But we also have some championship actions with some of the MLW champions. We got some Japanese wrestlers coming through from, TJP. So we get women's Japanese wrestling, which is going to be good. But of course, the main event of Battle Riot is, the Battle Riot match. Will Matt Riddle be able to survive 39 other people and walk out the Battle Riot as still MLW World Heavyweight Champion? Tune in with us tomorrow night to see that all go down, as you can watch along at home for free because these MLW shows are free on YouTube to watch. So they air these things for free. You don't got to pay for anything. It's great. But then, of course, you can wrap up your week on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 Eastern, as we cover our WWE review for the week. We are itching ever so closer to WrestleMania, and we will review all the things that went down on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. And then tune in for announcements because this upcoming week is crazy. Me and Adolfo are going back to Japan for a New Japan show. AEW has a pay-per-view. The NXT crew and CMLL crew will be able to review stuff. We'll be back next Friday for another TNA review. It's so much fun stuff. But we do got to get up on out of here. So for myself, Will, and Spirit, our other hosts, JT, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay biconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you tomorrow for our MLW Battle Riot watch along. But until then, sayonara, adios, and we'll catch you next time. Ta-ta for now.